Welcome. I'm Angelica.
And I'm Gaia. Today we are speaking to Ella from Griddle. Griddle is flipping the script on waffles and cooking up delicious, high-protein treats. Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me on. So, Griddle is a frozen bakery company on a mission to fuel healthy and happy lifestyles with our range of better for you and better for planet frozen bakery products. So whilst we've definitely started with waffles, and that's our main product range at the moment, we have big plans to go into other areas of frozen bakery and, really become a household staple bakery brand.
Well, let's talk about Griddle. Mm-hmm. Where did Griddle come from?
So I founded Griddle with my old housemate, Sophie.
Same.
So we're co-founders, and we met by complete chance through Spare Room. So after university, we were both in London, looking for a flat to live in, and we ended up renting from the same place.
That's insane. That is total coincidence. That was the universe coming forward for
fate.
you.
Yeah.
That's a bit fate.
Yeah,
that's a bit fate.
We quickly realised, that we were going to be friends. We had a lot in common. We're both really sporty people. We loved going on runs at the weekend, cycles, just being outdoors and active, really. And then kind of hand in hand with that is the fact that we really like to fuel ourselves well. So we would, cook from scratch a lot. And one of the favourite kind of weekend breakfasts was a protein waffle or a pancake that we'd kind of make from scratch. And it was a good few years into knowing each other that we kind of were like, why can you not buy these kinds of products from supermarkets? I think I probably had one eye open in that I was working for Pip and Nut at the time. And obviously they were kind of the first challenger brand in the nut butter category, and recognizing that this is a really old fashioned industry with products that just aren't really fit anymore for consumers, the modern consumer. So there's no really focus on health, no real focus on branding, no kind of quality ingredients in the foods. And that same logic can be applied to so many areas of the supermarket. And for us, that one that we really cared about was bakery. When you looked at the bakery aisle, it still is Kingsmill, Warburton's, old legacy brands that, in my opinion, don't keep up with innovation and providing what the modern consumer wants. So they're full of refined flours, really high in sugar, emulsifiers, preservatives, really very little nutritional quality. And ultimately we thought, if we want these products, maybe other people will.
So was it always going to be waffles? Was that the initial idea? You always knew it was waffles, or did you think about a few other ideas?
So we actually started with pancakes.
Okay.
Probably because they're easier to make by yourself. Well, I've flipped a lot of pancakes in my life, let me tell you.
Yeah.
So we started with pancakes, and they were actually a chilled product. We didn't want to put preservatives in, so they were never going to be ambient. We went into chilled, and this was very small scale. We were kind of selling through Whole Foods and as nature intended when that was still around. And what we realised very quickly was there's actually a massive industry-wide problem with food waste, particularly in bakery products. And whilst we didn't want to compromise by putting in potassium sorbate or something like that to extend the shelf life, we decided to put it in chilled. But even with that, it had 18 days shelf life, and that's from manufacture, getting it into the store, the consumer buying it, and then ultimately eating it. So it's a really small amount of time you've got to manage that supply chain. And so then we started looking towards the freezer aisle and thinking, actually, frozen food has so many benefits. And frozen bakery isn't really done. There's a few kind of own brand, baked from scratch croissants or cinnamon swirls and those kind of things. But no one's really owning that space.
Yeah.
So that's when we kind of started getting really excited about, I think there's a bigger opportunity here.
Okay.
And this was also around COVID time when people were naturally looking more towards the frozen aisle. And we saw a lot of new entrants to the category and people really smashing it in frozen. Like Little Moons went absolutely wild.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that's ice cream, so it has to be frozen, but it's still a premium brand. There were Strong Roots, Beyond Burger, Halo Top, kind of,
Oh God, I love Halo Top.
What do you think has been the key things that has allowed your product to be successful in terms of consumer behavior? So in terms of the freezer aisle suddenly becoming more luxurious, a premium product, what do you think has contributed to that?
I think, so firstly, consumers finding these new brands that I've just mentioned and that kind of drawing their interest into frozen and recognizing it doesn't just mean frozen peas and it doesn't just mean poor quality chicken nuggets and chips. There's actually a lot more opportunity within frozen food. And then I think the other part is, well, it's education really, but there still needs to be a lot more done. But it's, again, consumers recognizing all the benefits and how frozen food really can fit within a modern lifestyle. So it's very convenient. It's sustainable. You don't have this food waste. And obviously consumers are caring more and more about sustainability. I really feel that it's at the beginning of its journey. There's so much like more to go.
What do you wish people would know about frozen foods?
Good question, because there's so much.
That's a great question.
So
don't wink at me like that.
Did she wink?
I did. I always flirt with her.
Good question.
Hey.
Oh God.
Okay, what do I wish consumers knew about frozen food?
Yeah.
That it's oftentimes very high quality. So I think frozen technology has come so far.
Frozen tech. My God, that's not even something that's ever come into my mind. Frozen technology. What is frozen technology?
So methods that are used in production. So, 10, 20 years ago, frozen food probably wasn't the best. They didn't have freezing techniques that, nowadays they use rapid freezing. So IQF is called, and frozen food is instantly frozen at very low temperatures. So there's no space for like large ice crystals to form. It really maintains texture, color, nutritional integrity. So it's become a long way in terms of that. Frozen food oftentimes has more nutrients than fresh. So
really,
yeah.
Why is that?
Spinach, for example, within the first 24 hours of it being kept in a refrigerator, it loses 50% of its vitamin C content.
What?
Okay.
I know.
That's interesting. I always thought spinach was the superfood.
I mean, it is still amazing, definitely.
This is giving me a bit of an existential.
Definitely keep eating spinach, but buy it frozen.
Yeah, okay.
But in the freezer, spinach retains its nutritional value.
Completely. So freezing is basically pressing pause on the natural processes that happen to food. So oxidation, enzyme activity, all of these things that are degrading the nutritional value of the foods. If it's frozen, as soon as it's picked at peak ripeness, it doesn't continue to, become more ripe and oxidate and all of these things that are breaking down nutrients.
So
B vitamins,
fascinating.
vitamin A, vitamin C.
Because I always thought, and this might be a common misconception, but I always thought that freezing it sometimes meant that the vitamins weren't retained. So all of the good stuff or it's exactly the opposite.
It's the complete opposite.
So I think this is a real awareness thing.
Yeah.
And I think you're so right with my conception of frozen food. It's kind of taboo. I wouldn't go near the frozen aisle because in my mind, that's McDonald's in a freezer.
Yeah.
Basically.
And it's not fresh. Well, you would think, but which it is.
Completely.
Yeah.
But you're not alone in that. I think there's a real embarrassment around frozen food. Say someone came around for dinner and they were like, "Oh, where did you get this?" I had someone come around for dinner
from
recently.
the freezer. I'd be like,
"Yeah,
completely."
Like frozen pizza. Yeah. Someone says the pizza's frozen. I'm just like, no,
or even
I'm not having
not
that.
happening.
Or even using frozen prawns in a curry.
Yeah,
those frozen prawns, in my opinion, are much more fresh than fresh prawns, which have been kept raw in a chilled supply
That
chain
makes complete sense.
for days and days with, you know, microbes like growing on them. I mean, obviously they're safe to eat still, but when they're frozen, they're instantly frozen as soon as they're caught. So, yeah.
So, okay, so with frozen food, so do you think then there is so much space, now that I know this, there's so much space to expand in the frozen food section, basically?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, for Griddle, we want to be the frozen bakery. So your go-to for whether it's a morning good, like a pancake, a waffle, a croissant, but also eventually, hopefully, you know, breads and everything else. On the bread front, actually, that's another thing I wish people knew about frozen. If you're buying a fresh loaf from a bakery, that's lovely, that's great, and that's a really good quality loaf. Chop it up and freeze it.
I do this. I do this only because after 3 days I have to toss it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I do that.
So because you mentioned that you would like Griddle to be the go-to bakery, are there any new products that you're testing now that are going to launch soon? We want the juice.
We
want to know.
Little sneak preview.
Yeah.
So we're developing pancakes to add into our range. We obviously have previously had pancakes in chilled, so we're just putting them into a frozen format. They were great products and I'm very excited to have them back. We are also doing some thicker pancakes, so more kind of crumpety, thick ones. We're actually calling them griddle cakes. You heard it here first.
I love that.
Griddle cakes.
Griddle cakes. Okay.
And again, all toast from frozen or air fry from frozen. Yeah. Microwave from frozen if you want to. So super convenient. We are also developing a range of bake from frozen croissants. That one's obviously not particularly innovative in that you can already buy bake from frozen croissants.
But the products out there are full of butter and full of sugar.
Yeah.
And they're not,
Exactly. We have
different.
a real focus on the nutritional value. For us, everyone has their own definition of health, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's constantly evolving as we learn more. But I really personally believe, but also kind of from where I think the industry is heading, it's people are becoming so much more aware of ultra processed food and what this means. I think most people, a lot of people by now have read the Ultra Processed People book. That was huge last year.
That was massive. It was all over the tube.
It was all over the tube, yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I haven't read it.
I saw something of the same thing.
Yeah. And there's no real universally agreed definition of what ultra processed means. And I think processing has to happen to all food to an extent. And we're modern consumers and convenience is really important. And I think there's so much information going around and oftentimes it's information overload and it's too much. And suddenly you can't eat sugar or, you know, everyone should do the keto diet or you should fast when you wake up. Oh, wait, actually you shouldn't.
Or don't eat eggs.
Don't eat this.
Because it's destroying your cholesterol.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's something for everything. And then you kind of... I then just want to do a full 360 and I'm like, well, what can you eat then? So I think it's like a delicate conversation that needs to not fearmonger, basically. But my Griddle's understanding of ultra processed and the kind of where we see it as a brand is all of our products we want to make in a way using the same ingredients that you would in your home kitchen.
Yeah.
And that's where Griddle started. We literally started it in our home kitchen. When we create new products, we'll always do some samples in our own kitchens first to just see where we get that to and what that's like.
So to you, what is health and what is nutritional value?
Good question. To me, health is waking up feeling my best, both mentally and physically. It's about focusing on a variety of vegetables and fruits, and eating as minimal kind of additives, emulsifiers, preservatives as I can, chemical ingredients. But it's also recognizing that there's a time and a place for a bit of birthday cake or, you know, food brings people together, and that's a really important part to me of like a healthy lifestyle.
I agree. I think it's sort of, it's more about your everyday living. So if every day you're eating well, every day you're getting good sleep, that 1 out of 7, that 1 day out of the 7 in the week, it's not a problem.
Exactly.
And you can't be really restrictive, and you can't be perfect every day.
It's what you do most of the time.
It's what you do most of the time.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's also interesting, though, what you were saying before about there being so much information, and I think consumers being very overwhelmed. So from a social media perspective, from a sort of health trends perspective, are there any trends that you think shouldn't be trending? And are there any that you are excited about and you think people would think about more?
I think everyone needs to do what works for their own body. Everyone's so unique, not only male, female, whereas completely different hormones and needs, but also individually between, you know, two women might need to eat totally different for their own hormonal setup. I personally, I'm not big on keto. I don't really see how eating that much fat can be beneficial. And I think because obviously you have to keep the carbohydrates low, I think that also minimizes then the amount of fruit and veg that you can eat, which to me is the main way of getting in all your kind of vitamins.
And also from an exercise perspective, you need carbs. Yeah. Especially if you're like a runner, like I'm a runner, I need to eat so many carbs in order to fuel my running.
Completely.
And so that whole, I feel like that's a big disconnect between these diets and then what's told.
Completely. I think that, I mean, that's also a difference, I suppose, between performance eating and training for performance versus training or eating for aesthetics.
I think, but that's
then
where
that's even fascinating, and how there is a huge focus on aesthetic eating versus performance eating. Because to me, it would only ever be performance eating, right? What makes you feel good?
Yeah.
But that's what you were saying. It's subjective. It's completely subjective, because running is such a big part of your life, and that's unique to you. But it might not be. It might be complete for someone else. The focus might be completely different. So I think it's about what you were saying. It's completely unique to the person.
Yeah.
I think what we should also talk about is the dynamic with your co-founder. How does that work? What aspects do you work on? What aspects does she work on? How do you complement each other? How does it work?
So when we started the business, maybe wrongly or rightly, we didn't have a sit down and think, this is what I'm good at, this is what you're good at. We were naive.
But you learn that, right?
But that's the way, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the way.
And luckily, by complete luck, we seem to have grown into skill sets and roles that complement each other. So Sophie looks after all the operations and logistics. She's probably more macro than me. I like detail, but I think that can sometimes slow things down, or not everything has to be perfect to make a start. And she's very good at being like, nope, let's get something out there and then we can iterate. So that's a really complementary skill set. But then when we do need the detail, I'm there to make sure it's in place. I focus more on the products. I'm really into the new product development as well, branding, marketing. But yeah, where we're a small team, you really just wear so many different hats each day. If the computer or whatever laptop breaks, you know, you're your IT. You don't have an IT in-house department or IT. Yeah.
Don't get me started.
It's not. That's actually not. Please, that's not. How big is your team?
So there's myself and Sophie full-time, and then we have an accounts guy and also marketing, social media team. There's 2 of them. They're part-time. And then we outsource and we work with a lot of partners. So we co-manufacture, we work with logistics partners. We are going to start working with a PR agency. And then this year towards the end of last year, really, we started building out our board with really experienced kind of industry people. So we've just brought on a new chairman who was the former CEO of Saint Pierre Bakery.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the brioche burger buns?
I don't. I was about to lie.
Yeah.
I know, yeah. They sold to Grupo Bimbo, which is a Mexican massive company a couple of years ago. So he is amazing,
super experienced,
really experienced, and really adding a lot of value. And then we've also just begun working with a new marketing NED lady called Megan, who's also great. She's got experience. She was marketing director at Warburton's and global VP of marketing at Saint Pierre. So really people with a lot of experience and bakery experience, particularly under their belt, that for us, we'd rather have high level, fewer days than a less experienced person full time.
Are any of these chairman, is the chairman or any of these people investors or mentors for you?
Yeah, so David, our chairman, has invested. We also have a mentor and he's investing in this round, called Jean-Michel, who he was CEO of Paul Bakery. We've been working with him for a few years. He's incredible and very generous with his time, and really I feel like we can go to him with any problem, and if he can help, he will. And if he also doesn't think he's the best person or doesn't know, he's also happy to say that, which is really, really good.
I want to ask, when did you found Griddle?
We launched into retail with our products in January 22.
It's quite recently.
Yeah, but no, we feel like we've been doing it for a long time.
Because you had all the years before prepping and whatnot.
Just things take so much longer than you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
Even finding our first manufacturer, that took so much longer than I
feel like it's a bit of a needle in a haystack.
Completely.
Especially in your industry.
And I think
it's so secretive. Where do you even begin?
Yeah.
And when you're starting out, you don't have a track record. You can't give them a strong sales forecast because you don't have the retailers yet. So it's actually you're pitching to the manufacturer and trying to buy them in as to why they should invest their time, energy and money ultimately in helping you grow your brand, because it is a big risk for the manufacturer.
Of course.
So since 2022, since you launched, how has Griddle changed your life?
Wow. Big question.
Went straight on that.
I mean, I suppose it's my career, so it's something I wake up and do, or at least think about every single day. But I sometimes say this to Sophie, I really don't know what I'd be doing if I wasn't doing Griddle. And I would be absolutely heartbroken if that was taken away from me now, because I care about it and I really, really believe in it. And it's, even though, we've been doing it a fair bit of time, I suppose I actually believe in it probably even more than when we started, because now I'm really seeing just how big the opportunity is. And it's also really satisfying, I suppose, to see and hear feedback from consumers also understanding it and really loving the products.
Is there a lot of fear as well, I would imagine?
There's certainly, I think there always is, maybe for a founder, but my kind of my non-negotiable is I want to always be learning. And there's been times in the journey where stuff's felt really slow and maybe we didn't have the right people around us, and I felt like that was stunted, and that gave me fear, because then you think, oh my goodness, I'm wasting my career, I should be somewhere else. You then start looking sideways at what your friends and peers are doing and think you're not far enough along, and it kind of just spirals. But actually I've worked a lot on mindset around that, and I think as long as I'm learning, and you can put things in place to make sure you are still learning. So
when the doubt sort of creeps in and you're looking left and right at what other people are doing, how do you stay focused? How do you stay on your path?
I think reminding yourself just everything's individual and everything's happening at the right rate for you. No experience is the same. So for us, there was certainly in the first few years kind of feelings where I felt we should be further along than we are. But you can't compare like with like, because no one else is doing a frozen bakery product, or, you know, you're comparing yourself with a drinks product, and it's a different industry.
Of course.
And I think there's so much comes down to timing in food. Are you there at the right time and place when consumers are interested, but also not even consumers, but also the retailer? Like there's a buyer that you have got to get a yes from before you can even get on shelf. If you've not got the distribution, there's no even point talking to consumers yet, because you need to get in front of them.
It's like such an intense coordination.
Yeah.
I mean, things have to fall into place at the exact time.
Yeah. And then once you get into the retailer, you have a few months to prove your worth. So
And there's literally a time pressure because your food, I mean, it's frozen actually, so no, you don't have a time pressure. So you've taken away that
completely
that issue.
There's a lot of advantages to frozen in that way. There's the no food waste, which is a great one.
So your lifestyle, super fit, super healthy, is building a community around that something that you'd want to do or haven't done or have plans to do? What is, because I feel there's a big emphasis on sort of a cult community, a cult like following.
Yeah.
And I feel with Griddle, there's so much there that could be built into that. Is that something you've thought about?
Definitely. I think we have a few different audiences, but in terms of the running, sporty, outdoorsy community, we do a lot of events with that group. So last summer we did a waffle van at Love Trails Festival, which is kind of a yoga, running, mind and body festival in the Gower Peninsula in Wales. It was beautiful festival.
Amazing.
And then we are doing some bits with Cooper for the London Marathon coming up. We would do kind of waffle bars at pop-ups with you know, brands in the area. Sophie's also very into running. She does a lot of ultra running actually. But we'll do kind of pop-ups with run clubs or things like that. And then our other kind of key audience is families with children. I think for
busy moms,
sweet treats for kids that are healthy and quick and accessible.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Set it in one. And, you know, the parents don't feel guilty because it's not full of rubbish. The kids are happy because kids love waffles, and it can be customized. They can, you know, one kid can have it with banana and peanut butter. The other can have it with strawberries. Kids are fussy. They like things their own way, right? Yeah. And we get a fair few emails from parents, and it really means the world when you hear actually that is a real part of their morning or day or after school, and it really makes their life easier.
How do you integrate that feedback into the whole product development process and the way that you market the product itself?
We share it with all the team, obviously, because it's great to recognize. I think sometimes you can take yourself outside of the kind of world of consumers, so it's really important. And I think having a two-way dialogue with customers is really important. Even if we get any email, I will always try and interact with them and get a response so we can kind of understand how the product's fitting into their lifestyle, what they like about it, and also to tell them more about the company, because I think sometimes they'll email you and don't really realise you're a small team and how much their message has meant to you.
That happens so much to me. I once got a letter when I ordered something from a random jewelry brand I found on Instagram, and in my head I thought it was this huge team, but that made a huge difference because I ordered from them again, and I wouldn't have done it. Because I felt like I was supporting a person and not a big corporation. Somehow your mind just always goes to that.
And I bet you potentially advocated then, i.e. told friends about it as well.
Of course,
And I think it taps into the emotional side of it. Like you feel special, you feel good. And
Absolutely.
your product is making a family feel special, feel good. They can customize it. It makes them feel happy because it's a sweet treat, but it's good for you. It's not poison. And that's such an amazing feeling to be able to give to someone.
Yeah, exactly.
So in the give or take, you're definitely giving that.
And I think in response to your question though around how do we integrate that into new products, developing new products, we try to speak to as many customers as possible. It's hard to do when you've got a budget.
Of course.
But we are looking into ways to kind of integrate that more, whether it's through phone interviews and customers that already buy into us, and then sending them a voucher as a thank you or something.
Yeah.
Or there's also Viper, which is a platform where you can run almost like 24-hour feedback around packaging decisions, and you can kind of filter it by where these people shop, what the demographic is.
If going back to the whole cult community concept, do you work with ambassadors or influencers that share your brand values and that have a community that sort of shares your values to spread that message?
Yes. So we don't have employed ambassadors per se, but we certainly have relationships that we've built up over time with influencers or people on Instagram and TikTok in each of the different groups. So kind of mums is definitely one of them, and then sports people. So we're imminently launching in Tesco. We will have launched when this comes out.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Congrats.
That is awesome.
They are taking our protein chocolate chip SKU and our original whole grain waffles.
That is awesome.
So if you're near Tesco, please go grab a pack. Subtle plug. But for that launch, we're doing recipe boxes with recipe cards, and then kind of a recipe for the family audience and sending them out, and then a more kind of gym, active recipe with the high protein range and sending them out to kind of, a number of various different people.
Was Tesco's a milestone of yours?
Oh, Tesco's
is this your dream?
Tesco's is the UK's biggest supermarket, right?
Yeah, it's the dream.
The most beloved supermarket.
Yeah.
So was that just one of the most amazing moments? I can imagine that, because if I can imagine that would literally be like, I've done it. I've made it. Your product is in Tesco's.
True, but as soon as it's on the shelf, you need to see how it's selling.
Yeah,
but,
of course. It comes with expectations, anxieties. How do you manage that?
Expectation and anxiety.
Do you manage
Why
it?
she does so much sport?
Oh, maybe, Loki.
No, I think we really have. I think you've really got to try and separate yourself and your own value from how the company performs. Obviously, you care about that, but that can't be the main thing defining you.
So don't identify with your work
completely, because I think when you then have that separation, you can be more objective and probably do actually the things that need to be done, rather than being maybe a bit more emotional about it.
Yeah.
We will always make sure we have a lunch break. We didn't used to do that at all. We would be absolute slaves for eating at the desk, working on Sundays, working really late at night.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think that's good for you. And I think actually you're going to be much more productive if you take the rest that you need. So that's probably a couple of things to kind of reduce anxiety.
Does your co-founder help with that? Does she help calm you? Do you calm her? Do you show up for each other in that sense?
Definitely. Yeah. I really respect people that don't have a co-founder, but it's something that I could never do. I think you need to have that person that's going through it with you and fully gets it, but also will react in different ways to how you do. And I think we're both good at supporting each other in different times.
Amazing. Well, we're about to run out of time. So Ella, thank you so much
for
coming.
Having me.
This is awesome.
That's
perfect.
This is so interesting.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ella.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.